Hello, hello, and welcome to this taste challenge. And I have two blended Scotch whiskeys, 40% alcohol blended Scotch whiskeys. This is McCormick imported Scotch, blended Scotch whiskey. The McCormick distillery was founded in 1856. They're in Weston, Missouri, Halliday Distillery. I don't know when they started getting a Scotch brand under their umbrella. They obviously didn't make it. It was contract distilled for them. They used to show this on the website. Now the label looks like a picnic tablecloth with a bagpipe on it. Doesn't look bad. My friend David gave this to me. Thank you, David. He got this for $4.99 at a store, and they had a bunch of it on closeout. Well, I say closeout discount. But then the website stopped showing the product. They used to have it listed, so I'm thinking they got rid of it and they just sold it for a giveaway. $4.99 for a liter. Crazy, right? Enjoying Miller High Life. Enjoy the day and cheers, everyone, says Matthew Ryan. Cheers to you. So this is aged 3 years. They're not going to they don't put the who, can't speak. They don't put the producer on there, so we don't know who makes it. Probably some big Scotch whiskey company that everybody knows about, but they're not going to put their name on it. Olive green, yellow, white, red. Not a bad looking label, not the best, but not bad. And it's actually, when you see this kind of thing, you're thinking, oh, that's going to be just horrible. But it actually is pretty good. Okay, especially for $4.99 a liter. Now here's the competitor, the challenger. There's a huge glass. They call this a handle bottle because it's got these grippers on there like a handle. No, it doesn't give a hangover, but I never drink enough. Really, usually I don't drink enough for hangover. Irish boy says, looking good, Ronald. Thank you. My hair is kind of wild, but I had it wet. It was wet and then it dried and it's kind of sticking up. Okay. I can't help that right now. Okay. Ballantine's Finest blended Scotch whiskey. This is their basic Ballantine's. There's many others. There's the Scottish crest on there with the Scottish flag and a griffin holding a sword and two unicorns and a shock of wheat and look like a river and a distillery and a oak barrel. So there's the insignia of Scotland. This whiskey was introduced in 1910, and they're saying that they basically have kept the same recipe, and it's cream colored with some blue and red. Now, I did try some 1970 bottles, little 100 milliliter bottles that somebody gave me. Thank you, Amy from next door. And she bought 3 bottles, and they were $1 a piece. 1970 bottles, set it on a bottle, and those were good, and they tasted just like this current bottle. Now, this is from 2020, September 24th, 2020. I think I bought it later than that, but that's when it was bottled. So it's brown, protects it from the glass. Beautiful squared off bottle. Ballantine's. George Ballantine and Son, Dumbarton, Scotland. But it's owned by Chivas Brothers today. It's not an independent company. It was, but like so many, it gets bought out. They get bought out, and I don't think Ballantine's was ever a distillery. I think they were simply a brand holder. They were a blender. They bought Scotch whiskeys, they blended them. They might have had a warehouse where they stored it, a rick house where they stored the whiskey and aged it. Or they might have just blended it and said, here's the specs, do it. And then, it might have just been an office all along. Ballantine's might have simply been a facility for blending and an office where they conducted their business. But whatever the case, it's a famous Scotch. Now, here is the amber appearance. And here is the pale straw appearance of the McCormick. A lot of companies are like that. J&B, you've heard of Just Torini and Brooks, J&B Scotch. I saw J&B Scotch just today at a store. It's always selling, people always buying that. That's not a distillery. They don't make Scotch. J&B simply blends it in an office. I went by the office in London when I went to London the one time. Well, actually, I went twice in my life, on the way there and on the way back when I was going to Gibraltar in Spain and Spanish Africa. Uh-oh, here's just Kansas City Southern, eastbound. How much was that bottle you're holding? Oh, thanks. Looking good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. The big bottle? This huge bottle was $26.99, I think. $26.99. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Could be off by $1, but if I'm off, that means it was cheaper than that. It wasn't higher than that. It was either $26.99 or less. $23.99. No, I'm pretty sure it was $26.99. Heavy glass too. If you got hit with this, you'd probably die. And that was $4.99, but I said that was given to me. How many milliliters? 1,750 milliliters. 1,750 milliliters. 1,000 milliliters. So in the world of Scotch whiskey and bourbon too, I might add American bourbon, it's very common for companies to call themselves whatever distilling company, so-and-so distilling company, Pigeon Hollow Distillery of Tennessee, distilling company, they'll say. They won't say distillery. And then you read about it. Oh, Bertie and Anna Klugmeyer had a dream, and then go into all the stuff. And in 2017, they started selling their first bourbon. But then you start reading closer, and then you find out they don't actually make anything. It's all made by some other big company, and they sell it to them, and they bottle it for them. Or they might have a little facility where they bottle it, and then they sell it under their name out of Tennessee. And so the same thing works with Scotch. You got Ballantines, but I think it's all arranged for that nameplate. And anyway, it's owned by Chivas Brothers, so it's not an independent company anyway. It used to be Chivas Brothers. So they make their own, or I should say, maybe they have their own whiskey made, Chivas Regal. We all know Chivas Regal. There's also a Chivas Brothers Royal Salute, which is the real fancy, expensive Chivas Brothers. And then there's the 100 Pipers, which is a much cheaper value price Scotch, which is very popular in India, from what I understand, and not really popular in America, but you can get it. Heaven Hill handles it over here. They bottle it in Kentucky. So they made some kind of arrangement with Chivas Brothers. But that's sort of faded away. I don't ever see 100 Pipers anymore. But why? Why not? It didn't seem to anybody ever bought it. I did, but I noticed a lot of the lower end Scotch whiskeys have disappeared off our shelves the last 5 years, which is funny because they talk about how bad the economy is supposed to be. But if the economy was so bad, the people would be buying the cheaper ones, not the expensive stuff, right? So, it's like nobody's got any money. Well, why are they buying $200 bottles of Scotch? They got no money. No, I mean. Okay, let's go with the challenge, and I'm gonna read the comments. Don't worry. I think Chivas Brothers I think Ballantines, it's really Ballantines Finest, is gonna win. How much would a handle of this be? Probably a few dollars cheaper. But just, might be $4 cheaper, not extraordinarily cheaper, but a little bit. But like I say, I think it's gone. Can't prove that. I could prove it because I could probably call the company tomorrow and ask them, is McCormick Scotch still made, or did Is it gone? And they would tell me yes or no. But I'm probably never going to do it. It smells clean. This smells light. It smells like light whiskey. Like it's like really thin and dry and easygoing. Mild, you want to say mild. But then on the other hand, so does this one. Now this one's got more oak. Grain, honey, generalized, if you want to call it just generalized whiskey aroma, could be any country. Scotland, Ireland, Canada, USA. You could smell this and you could take a guess and you might, like 4 different people might say 4 different countries. Japan, Ireland, Canada, USA. No, Scotch. Oh, really? This one maybe has a peaty note, but it's questionable. And I know it's Scotch, so that's in my mind. You see, if I didn't know, I probably wouldn't be thinking about it. Let's go with the taste. Cheers. Do I get the sweet sugar water? Yeah. Do I get any peatiness? Oh, just the slightest little bit. It's probably 98% not peaty and 2% peaty. Serious. I'm not kidding. Medium body, dry finish. There's almost like some candy filling, sugar candy filling. You know, like you get with Cadbury eggs. You know that it's like a puffed sugar. It's like they I think it's called sugar cream. Really, I think that's what it's called. But I'm no kind of confectionaire. Wait a minute. Sugary, less peat, maybe 1% as opposed to 2. But I thought that there was a little smoke. And it's such a wisp of it. Now you might have a tiny little bit of Isla single malt blended in with this, but it was there. It was just a little, it was kind of like in the Dead Zone where he's handling those, Johnny's handling that cigarette package, and he's like, I thought, like he thought he felt something. You know, like wait a minute, and then the guy's like, what are you detecting? Nothing. I got nothing. But there was something there, and of course there was something there, as it turns out. But of course he couldn't put all the components together at the time because he didn't know what was going on. He didn't realize he was standing next to the killer. Dodd. So you say, I want a Scotch that's light bodied. These would work. They're like low medium, not exactly thin, but I want it to be dry in the finish. Yes, that would work. Yeah, that would work. I don't want it too smoky. Yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about too smoky with these two. You wouldn't really be getting any smoke at all. Like I said, there might be a scintilla of it, but that's questionable. That's questionable. But like I thought I detected it over here. Let's go over here again. Yeah, it's there. Barely. So I think that's the Ballantines, because I thought I remember in the past Ballantines having that little touch of smoke. Oh, I thought I had my glasses on. I'm so blind, I can't see. Makes sense. Okay. It is. So that's what gave it away. So difference between these two, minimal. Could they possibly be made by the same producer? Yeah, that's actually quite possible because like I said, they both kind of like sourced, but okay. Um, we know this one's still on the market. No way it got discontinued. It's still rolling strong. You can find this pretty much every. Well, in my town, you can find it at maybe one or two stores. It's kind of like fairly, fairly widely available. Let's say in Louisiana, it's fairly widely available. I have seen 12-year age. I've seen, like 15-year age. When I was at the airport in London, I saw like 25-year age, 35-year age. And you don't want to know the prices for those because you'd be dumbfounded to see those prices, and then imagine if somebody actually paid that. Now they might be worth it. I never had those. They might be unbelievably great, but I rather that $23.99 for this huge bottle than like $300 for a regular bottle. But that's me, But based on what this tastes like, I'm sure they're winners. See, I have never had anything bad from Chivas Brothers, but I'm sure there's people out there watching, or who could potentially watch that probably say, Chivas Brothers, they're the worst. All their stuff is trash. I hate it. You get those people like that, with these like formed. Well, in this case, I'll call it a formed delusion because to say that Chivas Brothers is bad, I just can't imagine that. McCormick, it tastes really nice, and it's obviously coming from a reputable distiller, but you'll never find out who it is because they're going to keep that under wraps. That's just how that's how that usually doesn't always operate that way. That's how it usually operates. Let's go with the comments. That's a good deal, says Irish Boy. I agree. A very good deal, says Matthew Ryan. It was. Are those bottles behind you full? They're not full, but you can see the McCormick is only about 75% full, and the Ballantine is probably 45% full. Getting through it. Another 8 years, I'll be done. How many years was the Ballantines age for? Only 3 years for the other one. Is quite young for a Scotch. Don't they normally age like 10 plus years for a Scotch because of the cold? No, no, you can find 3-year Scotch all over. There's no set. It has to be a minimum of 3 years, but I forgot to put that in the Ballantines. Oh, I did put that, no age statement. So if there's no age statement, they don't say on the website. I don't know how long it's aged. It's probably a problem where the youngest in there might be 3 years. No, I think there might be a rule. In the United States, if it's less than 4, you got to put the age. I don't know. It might be like 5 or 6 years, 7. I don't know. It's totally off the wall guessing. Or you could send an email to Ballantines. All they're going to tell you is, well, we take great care in our aging. They're not going to give you a straight answer. They're just going to kind of detour around it. Burley Sullivan says, you. Hey, Burley, cheers back to you. India loves their Scotch almost more than Scotland does, says Derek Harmon. It seems to be the case because they love Scotch in India. And then the whiskey that they make in India, the Indian whiskey, apparently tastes like Scotch, kind of like Japan. What you really need, Jay, is a pair of really dark sunglasses for these taste challenges rather than squeezing your eyes shut, says Jeffrey Lyons. Well, it's not hard to shut my eyes. Look at that. Shut my eyes. No effort. Simple. Snap. Derek Harmon says sunglasses and a glass of whiskey. And then he says, peated is what ruins Scotch for me. And most of them, not a peat fan, but enjoy a smoky bourbon. Go figure. Yeah. Well, it's a different kind of smoke. The peat is like compost pile, whereas the smoky bourbons are like a barbecue. I don't think that would be a problem with these two because they're not really peaty and they're not really smoky. That would be maybe a feature of these. That's what I was saying all along. That could possibly be the case, but it's not a strong component. They just mostly taste like regular old whiskey, but good, but good, but good. I'm talking about those bottles on the shelf behind you. Oh. It says Irish Boy. They look like beer bottles. They are beer bottles, but they're all empty. Just beers I collected over the years. I drank all the beer, but now some of these at the bottom are full, like these that I'm pointing at, the Michelob Original, and then down below that, but you can't see because of the chairs in the way, it's Michelob Special Dark. I have 2 bottles of that, and Michelob Dry. So I have 3 bottles of Michelob Regular, 2 bottles of Michelob Dry, and 2 bottles of Michelob Dark, Special Dark. And those are all unopened because if you open them, it tears the paper shroud and then it's ruined. There's no use saving it. It looks terrible. But I bought those back in the 1990s and early 2000s. I'll show them to you. But and they changed the bottles over the years. That's why I kept buying them. I don't really collect beer bottles anymore because it's a hassle, but that's the Michelob Special Dark. They don't make it anymore. Oh, Classic Dark. Sorry, Classic Dark. Oh yeah, it was Heineken Special Dark. They used to make. It still got beer in it. You might see the beer sloshing around, but I wouldn't drink it now. And this is the Michelob Dry. And you might be able to see the beer sloshing around. But yeah, never open them. Like I say, you tear the shroud, but you can see how rusty the cap got. Look. Steel. It's a steel. It's not aluminum. It's steel. Turn these lamps off because they're making too much glare. Yeah, you see how it got rusty? Yeah, 30 years it got so rusty. But when I first bought them, they were like painted and beautiful and glossy. I'm surprised that the red hasn't faded. Their label looks brand new, but sometimes the red will fade. You know, and it's notorious for fading red. It's bad for that. Then later on, they updated the labels, made them a little more fancy. That's the Michelob's Classic Dark Mod. That's the last label they had. A little bit fancier, you see. Yeah, you can see the beer maybe in there sloshing around. Looks like some of it might have evaporated. No, it's still pretty full. And then the Michelob Dry, the last label of Michelob Dry. I used to love Michelob Dry. That was a fine, wonderful beer. It was so dry. There was no sweetness in it almost at all. It was almost no sweetness. It finished so crisp. But maybe I was the only person in America who drank it, you know? Yeah, you can see it down there. See that beer? You can see the beer in there. It's going on 30 years. So I guess we could say I wasted the beer in order to save the bottles. I would have rather have drunk the beer because I used to like drinking Michelob and Michelob Dry and Michelob Classic Dark. And they made some like 100th anniversary special. They had the Michelob 100th anniversary special beer in 1996, which was better than normal. They even made Michelob malt liquor for about a year in 1996. I never saw it. It was called Michelob Malt. It was like strong, strong Michelob, but I never saw it. I would have bought it, obviously, but I never saw it. So can't give it a score. I can give these whiskeys a score. I think it's really cool you have unopened, no longer brewed Michelob beers. Thank you, Jeff. I thought it was cool when I had it, and I thought, when I was buying those, I'm thinking in my mind, 30 years later, it's going to be cool to have those, and it's still cool. It is. Never heard of them beer brands. Oh, Irish Boy, you don't get Michelob in Ireland. Would they make you sick if you drink them? Oh yeah, you'd be very sick. You probably wouldn't be able to drink it. It smells so bad. It's so rotted. But it's just a thing. All right, now how do we score these? So the McCormick. It does have a little peatiness, though. I don't know. To me, it's nothing to it. To me, it tastes like honey. It's like mostly honey. But some people that don't like Scotch might taste it and be like, ugh, I'm gagging. It tastes like rotted vegetable matter. They would think that peated note, which is very minimal here, but it would be exemplified to them. They would think it was just outrageously bad. I don't think. What percent is the beer you showed me? The Michelob Dry was about 5%. I don't remember the exact number. It was like 4.5, 4.8 at the low end, 5.1 at the high end, I think, something like that. And the Michelob Special Dark, same thing. It was like 4.9, high end 5.1. Same thing with Michelob, 4.9. Now Michelob, if you can find it, you just cannot find it. But it'll vary. Like one year you'll find it'll be 4.9. Now the next year you run across is 5.0, and then the next year it might be 5.1. So it'll kind of fluctuate. The Michelob Amber Bock is the same way. Michelob Amber Bock, which I can still find, I've seen it as low as 4.8. But it's like whatever the batch number they calculate it, if it's a little different, they'll put it on the bottle. They will put that. They don't just put an average, because most beers that you buy is just the average ABV. It's not the exact ABV. So like if you get Budweiser in the United States, Budweiser, it'll say 5%. It'll always say 5%, but that's an average. One batch might be 5.1. The next batch might be 4.9, but it's always around 5. I mean, it's in a practical sense, there's no real difference, but yeah, that is the truth. And they even talk about that on their website. A little smoke. So the McCormick's, I'll give it a B plus, like a 8.8 out of 10, 8.8, very good. I don't know about excellent, but very good. But for $4.99 for a liter, it's the best thing I ever tasted. Yeah, it's in a relative sense. Now the Ballantines is really nice. I think Ballantines is great. Now this man Robert Amort, who used to come over there 2 houses north of me, he said Ballantines, that's trash. He made that comment one time. Ballantines, that's trash. I had never tried it at the time when he said that. I thought, trash. I was surprised that he said that because I knew a lot of people had drunk that. I knew it was popular. And it stuck in my head. He was from Nicaragua, and they like Scotch down there in Latin America also. So I said, bad? But maybe he was right. I don't know. He loved Dewar's 12 year. That was his thing. Dewar's and Dewar's 12 year. So then I tried Ballantines Finest. And I said, I don't know what he's talking about. This stuff's good. This stuff's really good. But he passed away. Unfortunately, he died. Sad story. Italy makes very good beers, says Irish Boy. Yes. Peroni, Nastro Azzurro, Birra Moretti is wonderful. Birra Moretti La Rasa, 7.2% is even more wonderful, but can't get it anymore. I used to love that beer. Have you ever had Grey Goose vodka? It's so good, but expensive as hell. I have not had Grey Goose. It's from France, right? La France. Republique Française. I know about Grey Goose. It's very popular. I see it all the time. I've never had it. I know there's some people that will never deviate. The only thing they'll ever drink when it comes to vodka, if they're making a Bloody Mary, is Grey Goose. That is the only thing they will use. But I can't comment on it because I've never had it. It comes in that like smoked bottle, that glass, that like frosted, not smoked, but like frosted glass. Beautiful bottle. It's obvious. I don't even have to try it to know it's very good because it wouldn't be super popular if it was garbage, right? People around the world by the millions are not going to buy a vodka that's trash And you can't say, well, it's cheap. Well, it's not really that cheap. So at all. So and there are variants of Grey Goose that are very expensive. So yeah. Um, but I would try it. You know, if I was a vodka guy, I would be open to trying it. All right, we all take care. So the winner here, well, I was able to tell them apart, but I think I give a slight edge to Ballantines. But it's not much of an advantage. It wins by a small amount. Small amount. Now, what's going to happen tomorrow when I bring in the Chivas Regal 13-year age? It's called Chivas Regal rye cask finish. They finish it in American rye casks, rye whiskey casks. And that was introduced 6 years ago. Sometimes you could find it, usually not. Called Chivas Regal Extra. It's aged for 13 years. Obviously, 12 years in the regular whatever barrels they use. And they finish it for a year in the rye barrels. I think the Chivas Regal is going to whip McCormick. I don't think McCormick stands a chance, but I could be wrong. We'll find out tomorrow. All right, well, y'all take care now. Bye-bye.